Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Saturday Morning Comic Review. I'm your host, Alan Wallace. Today, we got a great issue for you guys. We're going to do an Omega run for you. And for those who don't know, basically what an Omega run is a chance for me to catch up on some of the backlog items that I've missed, and that could be a combination of backlogs that are from way far in the past or ones that I missed from, the previous week polls. Try to review 10 or so per week, and sometimes the polls are like 15 or 20 or 25. It just all really depends. Although I've been mentioning, I've been trying to pull back on those as well too. But for anything I didn't get to on the regular show on Saturday, try to finish those up and then add in some backlogs too to make sure we're staying on top of that and just eventually working our way through the collection basically. So with that, let's just go ahead and jump right into our reviews. And so, again, 10 books today, as per usual. I'll say, for those that are also new to the show, for all of my comic book shows, and really wrestling as well, I spoil the hell out of everything, right? So anything that I start reviewing here, I'm going to talk about what happened previously, what happened presently, and then I try to, if I can remember, tell you whether or not this is a good time to jump into this series. For the video format, we'll show off the art a little bit, and then just kind of my overall thoughts on where things are at, where they're headed, so on and so forth. I also compare them to where things are at on League. So I use this platform database if you're into comics, you already know what it is, but it's called League of Comic Geeks, and basically it'll have other people's ratings that have read it and where people are at, how many people have reviewed it, so on and so forth. And it's just a really good resource to use to find new books and just keep everything organized and things like that. So on the screen right now, you can see we have our first book here, and I'll just go through all the titles real quick just so you know which they are and what order. So first we have Resurrection Man, Quantum Karma. This is number 2. Then we have The Moon is Following Us, number 9. Then Exceptional X-Men, number 3. The Outsiders, number 7. Batman, the Brave and the Bold, number 7. Rat City, number 13. Miles Morales, Spider-Man, 13. Uncanny X-Men, number 5. Batman, 152. And Batman, One Bad Day. This is the Penguin edition. So those are the 10 books that we're going to review today in that order. So let's start off with Resurrection Man. This was from the most recent week, which are the polls from May 7th. And let me flip over here to the shared screen. Make sure that comes up okay. And I noticed, so the way that I record this is a little inside baseball here. So I have 2 platforms that I record this on, right? So I have OBS, which is, if you know, but basically it is a great platform to just record all your live streams or videos or what have you, and then post that stuff directly up to YouTube. So that's what I use to switch out these screens. But then for the podcast, I actually run a second recording on the background. So I do that all through Audacity, which I've done since day one. And so I've noticed when I transition the screens for the video, it fades in and out the audio. So if you're a video watcher, like you've noticed that. But if you're on audio, you had no idea that was happening at all. And I just found that pretty interesting. So I figured I'd call it out for the video folks of like, I'm aware and I try not to talk during the transition, but then I'll have dead air that's awkward for the audio people and they can't see what I'm doing. So it's like, why do you have these random breaks? So, if I'm not, stopping to pause and talk in between, that's why, because I'm also doing it for the audio folks as well. Anyways, inside baseball done. Let's get to the book itself. So Resurrection Man, Quantum Karma, book number 2. This is a Rom V joint. Absolutely love Rom V. One of the GOATs in my opinion as far as books that are going on right now. If Rom V's writing it, 9 times out of 10 I'm reading it. So this book, I gave it a 4.5, as you can see up on the screen. Lee gave it a 4.4, which is an excellent score. And so this book is pretty awesome because we pick up right where we left off, which is very typical for comics. But for this issue, as we go through it, I'm like, what exactly are we hinting on? It seems like we're basically talking about, a lot of the stuff that was already mentioned in book number 1. And so the previous issue, we have a story of Resurrection Man, and his superpower is super interesting. Basically what his power is, however he dies, that's how he's resurrected and comes back with that superpower. So if he's shot, he basically has the ability to shoot weapons maybe from his his fingers, his hands, his body, somehow. If he's killed with a whole bunch of spikes, he shoots out spikes from his body. If he's killed from fire, suddenly he has fire powers, so on and so forth. And so the very first issue, this Resurrection Man died from old age. And so what he technically died from is time. And when a Resurrection Man gets to the point of dying from time, they, rather than being resurrected and immediately put back into the world, the universe that they're in, they're then actually put into this separate world, and they basically become these makeshift timekeepers. And then they learn effectively a new ability, and it almost seems like they're, in a way, in charge of the timeline moving forward. It's like the best way I know how to describe it. And so this Resurrection Man has reached that point. He's meeting another one who's basically showing him the ropes of what that all means. And as they're talking about it, they describe one of Resurrection Man's deaths, and I guess this was maybe his first initial life, where he was in World War II, I want to say, in Japan, and he was in a prisoner of war camp and died this very gruesome death. And so it came back and then killed all the people that were in the camp. But the leader of the camp was this crazy superstitious guy, and basically would feed on a whole bunch of people's bodies, right? Just like a cannibal, basically, and thought that if you're consuming human flesh, you're somehow getting stronger. And in a way, he kind of did. And so when Resurrection Man came back, and I think he died via fire, technically, so he blew up the whole camp. That guy was hanging on by the minimalist, skinniest of threads you can possibly imagine to life, but he was clinging to life, and then slowly actually coming back to life. And so that's what just was described in the last issue. This issue basically says, okay, so then your life continued from there, and then what happened? And basically he got caught up in another war. I'm not sure if it's Vietnam or something along those lines, but similar thing, not a prisoner of war, but died a very gruesome death, and died from the spikes, like I mentioned. So a whole bunch of spikes then shot out from him, and he killed all the other people that killed him. But he had a really good friend during this war too, and so he was talking to his buddy, and he was like, okay, well, let's get out of here. I got a daughter to see. And Resurrection Man's like, okay, we'll see if you get out of here. And then Resurrection Man sees his out, and so he leaves, and he can hear a whole bunch of gunfire in the background, and instead of turning back to help his friend, he just continues to go. So then we go back to the timekeeper area, and they're like, see, and this is what happened, but now that you have this power, you can actually feel that you can go back there, right? And he's like, wait, you're right, I can. And so we go back to that point in time, and rather than him leaving, he now turns around and goes back and helps. So as he goes back and helps, now the story is changing and diverting from what it was. And it's changing and diverting to a point basically now where at the end of this chain, they end up caught by a whole bunch of cannibals again and don't realize it. And this time it's way into the future, and they're being served up, specifically Resurrection Man, as he got caught and captured, now to this whole bunch of group of zealots, I guess is the best way, and they're all praising that initial guy who was the head of the camp of the POW. It's oh, mind-blowing, this is all full circle, what the hell is going on? Story is totally completely wild. I'm I can't believe we went this far, or we're going in this direction. So cool, so insane. Ram V is just, I don't know how he does it, man. I'm reading this book, I'm where are we going? This doesn't make any sense. And at the very end, it's oh my gosh, this is incredible. So let's flip over to the art here. As you'll see, this one I voted, actually, I do a little highlight on Instagram and TikTok, and this one I voted to be both the cover art of the week and the interior art of the week. It is just nuts what they did here. So this book is excellent. I mean, it came close to being comic of the week. It just didn't fully go over the top. You can see all the gears and the gizmos on time and everything. It's just, man, excellent stuff here. So it's also a black label as well, so very gruesome. It'll curse a lot. It's adult in its nature and its content. So I'm enjoying the hell out of this. I can't wait for the next one. And if I would say for the book, I'm just looking to see what else we have. I think I'll just say this is the comic of the show. So, starting off with a bang. It's an excellent book. Again, Lee gave it a 4.4. I gave it a 4.5. It's good stuff here. Good stuff here. So next up, and should you jump in here? It's book number 2. You might as well find number 1, I'd say, at this point. It would just make sense to just jump in. And you probably can find it. So next up here from Image, we have The Moon is Following Us, number 9. And this one here, if I flip over to my share screen, I'm trying to figure out how I want the scenes to flow, and I've basically gotten it correct, and I just need to make sure that I hit it in the order and it'll flow a little more nicely. But anyways, this one here is the second to last issue for this series. So it's a 10-parter. We're on number 9. I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.5 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And this book's incredible. It's been great from the start. It's such an interesting concept. Basically, we have 2 parents, and they have a young daughter. The young daughter fell asleep, and she just never woke up from that sleep one day. And she's been asleep for months and months and months. Modern medicine can't help her. Basically, they ran into this guy who was like, hey, I know what's going on here. I'm able to save your daughter, but we have to go into her dreams and wake her up basically from within. And throughout the comic book series, we've been learning the ins and outs of the world that they're in, and they're starting to like fully understand that they are in their daughter's dreams. So she's going to have like unicorns and like these childish nightmares and things, and those things are meant to help them. And they're fighting off this plague, I guess you'd call it, or infection called a cascade. We've gotten to the point now that their Sherpa, if you will, that was guiding them, is actually a bad guy the entire time, and he wasn't actually helping them, and he had a daughter in a similar situation, and he's trying to siphon their life off into his daughter so that way that she can come back to life. So that's been like kind of an interesting tidbit that's been going on this whole time. And now for issue 9, we're at the point where the parents have finally reached the parents. And we're going to a point here where Penny is the daughter, Sam is the mother, and Duncan is the father. So Sam is trying to get Penny out of here. And at this point, we've teamed up with the nightmares of Penny's nightmares, basically her nightmare characters, and they've all decided like, okay, you got to take Penny and we got to go. Us as the nightmares, we're going to sacrifice ourselves basically so you can get out of here after all the fighting that's taking place presently. So Sam grabs up Penny, and the last issue, Duncan looked like he was potentially fatally wounded, but he wasn't. He's like just severely injured. So they all hop onto, and you can see it like from the cover here, basically onto this, it's like a hippopotamus Griffin Pegasus thing. So they get onto his back and they just like go upwards because they're in like the center of this like dream world. So they just keep flying up and up and up and up. And, you know, they're dodging a whole bunch of stuff as they're going. Very action-filled, not much dialogue at all in this issue. And it looks like they finally get up to what feels like it's either the top layer or some sort of layer of more grounded reality versus Penny's like dream world. And they get up to the top there, and Duncan is really kind of down and out at this point. So it's just Sam and Penny, and it's mostly Sam because Penny is like still kind of half asleep. So Sam is fighting off this big final boss that they were facing. It's like this half scorpion, half humanoid thing. And it's actually one of like the traumas from Duncan's past life when he was abused as a kid. So, but Sam doesn't realize that. So Sam's like fighting it off. And it doesn't look like she's able to do anything. At this point, Penny is now like actually waking up and like talking for the first time. So Sam like kind of falls back and then goes over to Penny. And then this is when Duncan gets up and like kind of a last effort throws a piece of, I guess it's like a memory from Penny. And it's like this shark that's on a stick, but it's something that reminded her in reality when she was, you know, actually awake and stuff, like a core memory, if you will. So that goes and attacks and it finally kills this scorpion thing that's been like the big bad, probably since like issue 4, if I'll say. And it looks like it kills that thing. But then Duncan collapses and he looks like he's actually gone. And the issue basically closes out with them. It's back in the real world with Duncan asleep on the table, and the evil person, Sherpa, and the head of the Cascade are looking at him and they're like, he's dead. So that's the cliffhanger there. And we have one more issue to wrap this all up. So I got no idea exactly how it's going to end. I'm hoping they pull through and it's all the good guys win in the end, but who really knows? So it's an incredible journey, incredible ride. The storytelling is just nuts, and just the whole premise. The art in this is fantastic. This also would have been a really good contender for the internal art of the week as well. As you can see, these are like kind of the nightmares trying to sacrifice themselves. Sam and Penny flying up towards the top. And so, yeah, it's just an incredible ride. Not the time to jump in at number 9, obviously. And so here's like that scorpion thing, full spread image that you have here. But it is just so much fun, this whole series. That's Duncan throwing this like shark thing, which was like a memory as well. So I've enjoyed the hell out of The Moon is Following Us. I'm glad I just picked it up on a whim. Liked the cover art. Straight up judged a book by its cover. I got no shame saying it. And it's been a good pick. It's been a great pull. I'm sad it's coming to an end. It's been, when we come to like of the year awards, this is going to be on it. Whether it's actually, here are my top 5 or whatever, or here's like one of the best from Image, so on and so forth. I mean, it's just been like aces across the board. So good. So that, again, is The Moon is Following Us, number 9. I gave it a 4.5. League gave it a 4.5 as well. So next up here, we have The Exceptional X-Men number 3, and this is actually going to be a backlog here. So I gave it a 4, and Lee gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And so the story here, and I should say this, since it is a backlog, it came out November 20th, 2024. So, about 6 months ago or so. And I'll say for this one, it's kind of an interesting one. So I decided at the time to just pick up all the X-Men books for whatever reason. And so for me, it was X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, and Exceptional X-Men. And of the 3, I'd say this is probably the weakest. It's more of like the day in the life one of the 3 thus far. And you have, you can see from the cover here, Kitty Pryde and Emma Frost, the White Queen, going after each other. And it's a group of teenage mutants that just found out that they're either have their powers or they knew that they had their powers and they're misfits in the world. And Kitty is out there trying to avoid being a hero, but finds herself in these circumstances where these teens now want her to help them either figure out their powers, train them, or, whatever the case. And Kitty's like very conflicted about it, doesn't really want to do it. And Emma Frost is like bored since the time of Krakoa has ended and is like, hey, you have these kids right here. Let's go ahead and just train them and at least do some sort of good. But Emma is like kind of an anti-hero, at times a villain as well. So her approach on it is going to be very different from Kitty's. Kitty's is going to be more of the approach of like, here's the why, here's what we're trying to do, reduce collateral damage, let me ease you into this. Emma Frost is like, the world is shit and we just got to go. Like, I'm throwing you into the deep end, best of luck. And so a lot of this issue starts with the arguing and the fighting that Kitty doesn't want them to be under Emma's, tutelage. And Emma vice versa is like, well, fine, but we got to do something with these kids. We can't just like leave them out there and abandon them. And so Kitty's like, okay, fine, I agree, we'll do it. So they kind of get to know one another and they effectively set up a makeshift danger room, which is just like a classic trope or theme or piece of X-Men lore and history, right? And that's where the X-Men will train. And so Kitty's like trying to do like a very nice, fun, easing them in, and then Emma, she has like mind controlling abilities, basically comes up with these kind of visions of random demon creatures like attacking them, and like, oh my gosh, where did this all come from? And then Kitty like knew pretty quickly, like, this is Emma Frost obviously doing this right now, and she's like, what the hell, like, Emma, we can't like just terrify these kids. How are they going to learn this way? I'm just like, hey, when we were training, like, you went through a lot worse, I went through a lot worse than this, and we can't just coddle these kids. They're going to face some pretty crazy unfair things. And while they're having this argument towards the very end, Kitty's, I guess it's her ex-boyfriend or some sort of relation, just the way she reacted at the end made me feel like there's something that happened in the past year. It's Iceman who shows up, and he has something that he needs to tell them urgently. Don't know what it is. So that's the cliffhanger that we're left off on there. And so for this book right here, the art, I'd say it's fine. Nothing too crazy, to be honest with you. I'd say usually, honestly, for Emma Frost too, I don't know. I'm used to seeing her. I think it was Immortal X-Men or something like that. It's not like the typical way that you would draw her to, so that feels kind of odd. Kitty Pryde, I don't know too much about. I've just seen her in cameos from here and there, so I guess this is the correct view of her. But I mean, the art is just kind of fine. There's nothing crazy here. So, but overall, I think the book it's okay. I'd say for the X-Men stuff that's going on right now, unless you're a diehard fan, you can definitely skip this, right? You just don't necessarily need to fall for this. I gave it a 4, and Lee gave it a 4 as well, right? So it's good. The quality of the writing is good, and what we're driving towards seems like it's going to be something that's worthwhile and entertaining. But at the end of the day, unless like you're a diehard X-Men, you can skip this. You'll be quite all right. So that's Exceptional X-Men number 3. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well. Next up here we have is The Outsiders number 7. And this is going to be a backlog as well. This came out May 14th, 2024, which is, oh wow, that is almost a year to the day. I'm recording this on Tuesday the 13th, so that is crazy. It's been a full year since this book came out. But I gave this one a 4, and Lee gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And so this book is interesting where they decided to take all of this. Oh my goodness gracious. So it was the last issue where it was basically the first time where we got things to be like really meta and really weird. Sorry, just taking a sip of tea there, but it's bizarre that they were pulled into what feels like the kind of like the center of the universe, and come to find out that where they were pulled into is basically where comics and characters and storylines go to die. So if something is canceled, that's where it goes to die, basically. And so when they were pulled in there, they then pulled themselves out of it. And from there, in this issue, we get the backstory of Drummer. So Drummer, we come to find out, is impervious to any universe dying. She is a constant in everything that happens. So it gets so meta to the point that it references other eras of the DC universe. The New 52, what's happening presently, and all the other disasters and crises that have happened in between. And each time she's there, she was born in one of them, these universes. Everyone dies and is wiped out that she knows, but she remains. And then the universe is rebuilt in like the meta way that us as consumers and readers pick up the books, and it's like, okay, we're on to the New 52 era. Now we're in the all-in era, right? You have the absolute, like all these different crises throughout years and decades of comic books where you have a couple of years and then the universe is made new. She's been there for kind of all of them. And it's like, she knows that there's like readers out there that are reading, but she doesn't know what's going to happen next. But the readers are always reading and they seem to not know, but sometimes they do. It's like it breaks the fourth wall like multiple times. And it's so interesting to see like, okay, like where is this going to end up for Drummer? Because it is a miniseries. It ends at issue 11. Here we are at issue 7. I don't know what is going to happen. Like I truly, genuinely have no idea where they're going to go with all this stuff. So the whole premise of The Outsiders in the first place was they'll explore something and just like observe it. So it was like Adventure of the Week, Exploration of the Week, you know, of the week adventure is the best way to describe it, right? And now it's become like this whole completely different thing, which has been so interesting to me. So again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well. It does get like multi-dimensional, multiversy, and again, it's mentioning us as the reader directly. I'm just really interested to see like what's all going to happen next. That's like the best way I can describe it. So if anything, I'd say jump in at number 6. Number 6 would be the place to jump in, then go to 7. But the entire series is out, so you might as well just get the trade. It's a big recommend for me, but I've been much higher on this book than League has. League's been in like the 3s for the most part, high 3s, but still the 3s. I've been 4.5 for a majority of them. I think a couple of them are in the 3s. So for me, I'm just enjoying the heck out of it. I'm like, yes, this is a good pull. Again, just judge the book by its cover basically, and just picked it up. It just sat on the shelf as each of the singles kind of came out. And now I'm at the point where I've been working through them all, and every single time I shouldn't say every single time, because I did give some 3.5s, but I like where the story is going, and then now we've just taken it a completely different direction. I'm pretty wowed and floored by it, to be honest with you. So the next, I pressed the wrong button. The art for this. The art in this one in particular is not the best, not the worst either. I've seen better. I'd say the first couple of issues, it feels like they were like outdoing themselves with the art each and every single time. But for this one, just feels like it was kind of meh. It was blah. So here it is, like in a different universe that she recreated, and she had like a boyfriend that she was with, and then the universe was completely destroyed and shred down to like just atoms, and then just nothing but debris. But she still remains there. Well, everything that she's known and loved is like totally and completely gone. But she's just like the constant, and then it's reborn, and then she's still just there. It's a wild concept. So it's gone from being about Batwoman as much and Fox to now like it's solely about Drummer at this point, which is so cool. So yeah, I'm enjoying the heck out of it. That is Outsiders number 7. I gave it a 4. League gave it a 4 as well. Next up here we have Batman the Brave and the Bold number 7. And this one is our anthology series. So we have several books in one. It is 4 different stories, all in different parts thus far. And each week, it's not even the same books that are like recycled in and out and like just moves along to the next part. Sometimes it'll skip around. But for this one, it is mostly followed up from what we had in issue 6. So for this, I will actually need my actual notes. So let's flip over to the main feed, because there's just too much stuff going on. Where is it? My notes. Okay, so this one, there are 4 stories that you have in Batman the Brave and the Bold number 7. You can see I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well.
Nailed it. I know. Thank you. Moving on.
And the 4 books we have here are Batman Pygmalion Part 2, Wild Dog, Here Comes the Trouble Part 1, Aquaman Commission Part 1, and The Wager, which is just kind of a one-off. Usually the last story in this is always just kind of a one-off. So for Batman Pygmalion Part 2, this is an interesting take where we have Batman. He has amnesia, and he's basically trying to relearn all of his skills and fighting abilities, like who he is, his identity, everything from scratch, basically. And it is a nurse, single mother, and a daughter who took him in. The daughter is like a huge Batman fan, is basically trying to teach him how to be Batman again. We get to Part 2. The bat signal goes up. He finally feels like he's in a place to where he can go out on patrol. And he goes and answers the call to the bat signal. And he gets there, and Gordon goes to arrest him. He's like, what the hell? What is going on? And us as the readers are like, I don't understand what's happening. And then another Batman shows up. And it's like, oh, interesting. What could be happening here? And that other Batman basically says to the one that we were following in Part 1, you are an imposter. You are not actually Batman. And we're like, what? As a reader, I was like mind blown. I was like, what could possibly be happening here? And it explains that the guy from Part 1 was actually a thief. So he's an ex-military special operative, and he went into Bruce Manor, into the Batcave, and stole Batman's costume, basically, because he was on some sort of job. He got hit in the head during the job, but he was wearing Batman's costume. And so this single nurse mother found him like on the side, and apparently she helped out Batman helped her out. This could have been months ago, years ago, whatever the case, but obviously she's trying to repay it, and she sees him dressed up as Batman. He looks just like him and takes him in. And so it explains like, okay, he knows all the fighting, but he doesn't remember the why or why he's doing this. And there were some allusions to, his mother dying and the pearls and the alley and the gun and all that stuff. But that's reference to something that's totally, completely different than what actually happened in Bruce Wayne's, obvious backstory and everything. And the way that it's done is like really, really like so well executed that I was like, wow, that's kind of a masterclass in how you would do this. So that is so cool. And at the very end, he basically is like, well, I kind of want to change my ways. Like, I don't necessarily want to go back to being a bad guy. And while that happens, single mom and the daughter are like under attack, and our real Batman is like, hey, here's your opportunity, like we can go and do something about it. And then both of them go off, into the night to go and rescue the two girls, and it's going to be concluded in the next one. So cool, awesome part. Really enjoyed the heck out of that one. So that is awesome. Then we have the next story being Wild Dog, Here Comes the Trouble. So this one is so funny. It reminds me a lot of Peacemaker is the best way to describe it. So you have just a local vigilante in a very small town, and there's some spillover of a supervillain moving from small town to small town. And basically the supervillain is like, well, there's nobody out here. There's no Batman to stop us. There's no Superman or anything like that. We can just go ahead and just take these small towns throughout the country. And so this guy is like, well, I'm smart. I'm going to be ahead of all that. And it's like funny and all these like quippy jokes. And you can tell that he's not that strong, but he's doing the whole vigilante thing. And he's able to stop a heist that takes place that's hired by this supervillain guy, basically. And so he feels like he's onto something here. And he's like, okay, we're in a small town. There's only one place that this supervillain could have recruited anyone from. And he goes to the one, I don't know, the Penguin equivalent, but for the small town that he's in. And he's like, yeah, I do know who it is, but if I keep, telling and spilling my secrets, none of these guys are going to come back to me. He's like, that or you can lose your face, man. It's really, the choice is up to yours. And so it looks like he's finally about to reveal who this supervillain is and where to find him, and that's basically where the story ends right there. So it's just kind of a funny, like, local rather than global or saving all of Gotham or Metropolis type of hero story. So that's pretty cool. Then we get into Aquaman Commission Part 1. Interesting stories here. We have an anglerfish, which is like a deep sea fish, somehow ends up onto the surface and caught by a fisherman. Aquaman recognizes like that's really odd and weird, so he goes and he flies up onto the ship. He rescues the fish, and then when he rescues the fish and goes back into the water, he's like, what are you doing up on the surface? There's got to be something going on. And basically he goes and follows the fish and sees that there's a whole sea of fish of all different kinds that are like stuck and being drawn to this sound, and the sound is like hypnotizing them and bringing them in. And as it's doing that, these fish are now dying. And so he's like, I gotta investigate what's happening here. So there's like crack or crevice that he goes through, and he runs into like this mech armor guy. And so at first he starts to fight him, realizes I'm probably outmatched here, and then tries to run away. But he runs away like in deeper into the crevice rather than out. And then he sees a whole bunch of aliens that are like doing some sort of experiments. He's like, okay, so maybe this mech has something to do with that. And then the mech catches up with him and grabs him on the shoulder, removes his helmet, and it's Gorilla Grodd who's underneath the helmet. And he's like, Aquaman, I need help. My civilization is under attack as well. So we're under the impression, I guess, that these aliens are just experimenting on a whole bunch of, animals, basically, whether it be the fish life or Gorilla Grodd, maybe the gorillas as well. And we'll see where it all leads. So there's that one. Then we have the final story, which is The Wager. So The Wager is an interesting one where it's Gotham, it's Batman. He's going after this gangster criminal that has killed a child. And of course the child has a mother, very religious. She goes to the church, and that's where Batman catches up with her. And she says she's made a deal with the devil. And so Batman actually meets this devil, this demon, and basically is like, the demon's like, I'll make a wager with you. I'm going after this man's soul. And Batman, of course, doesn't want anyone to die. So he's like, if I find the person first, I quote unquote win the soul. So you don't have to take the soul and you can just leave. And then the demon agrees. And so, of course, Batman, being the greatest detective in the world, he reaches the gangster before the demon does. And when he reaches him, basically the gangster is a typical asshole, but like the king of assholes. And Batman's like, okay, I'm bringing you in. He's like, bringing me in? Like, what's even the point? I'm just going to be in jail. I'm going to be out in 5 months. I'm going to do the same shit all over again. And Batman's like, okay, well, you do have a point. So you know what? Screw it. I'm going to let just whatever was going to come after you. And he basically tells the demon, you can have him. Which is so, like, not what Batman would do. But he was like, at lost cause is going to save more people this way by just having this guy gone. Which is, Batman would never do that, but I just found that so interesting and so funny. But that's how he decides, basically, to handle that one, which is hilarious. So, those are the 4 stories. Let's flip over now to the art here. So the cool thing about this one is because you have the 4 stories, it ends up being just nothing but story here. And the art is always really good, but it is very long. And the books, I wonder if it says it here. Yeah, they do end up being $7.99. So that's $8. Oh, you can't see that at all, but it's $8. Trust me. And so I get that that's a lot. All the Brave and the Bolds have been out thus far. I'm slowly working my way through, but sometimes I do get to the point where it's like, man, this is a lot to be reading. And these books, like just trying to keep everything in mind as it goes around from part to part. But it's cool for what it is. I've been enjoying them. Some are misses, some are hits. This one was pretty good. Again, I gave this one a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well. That's Batman Brave and the Bold, number 7. Then next up we have here is Rat City, number 13. So this is going to be in Image Comics. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, this is usually the cheapest book. It's sometimes $2.99, sometimes it's $3.99. So, 3 or 4 books. I'd say most books these days are 4 or 5. Just kind of depends. But this one tends to be on the cheaper side. The art is pretty interesting. We'll get into that, but let's start actually with the story here. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. But for the story here, we kind of pick up on like a new saga, if you will, like a new arc within the story. So everything just previously wrapped up. So actually, should you jump onto this one? Yes, this would be the perfect time to jump onto this one. It alludes to something that happened literally in issue 1, and we're on issue 13. So now's the time to get in because it's kind of a fresh new start. But this book, we have a kid who was like living out in the Middle East. He was with his uncle. His family's died in some sort of terrible explosion. And he's like super studious. He's got a brother who's hanging out with his uncle. And while I guess, he's likely going to be an antagonist. We'll see. But this kid that they're focusing on was studying. Basically, a special forces task group went in, infiltrated, and killed his uncle and his brother. So now he's like, F this, I got to chase down these special forces. One of them is Peter. Peter is Spawn. So Peter is, after the last issue, was basically blown up at the top of a tower and landed out of the tower onto his back, onto like an awning or whatever. And so he has Spawn, they refer to it in this as the Deviant, surrounded on him, and he looks like he's barely breathing, barely alive. But our Saudi Arabia, Dubai guy has landed in Rat City, and he's basically trying to find and locate Peter. So that's the cliffhanger that we're left off on where is it going to happen that these two meet? Is Peter going to be okay? The answer is likely yes. He's been in worse situations than this. And then when he runs into this guy, what else basically going to happen? That's looking for revenge for his brother and for his uncle. So the art here on this one, I'd say, is some of the crazier art. I do love it's amazing how good the quality of the art is for how inexpensive these books are, I would say. I'm actually genuinely surprised. And when I say cartoon on this, I do truly mean like it feels like a cartoon at times. But it's like a highly animated, almost anime-esque in the detail and the way that it's drawn. So I do love this book for that. The story is hit and miss. Some weeks it's good, some weeks it's like, meh, what am I even, looking at and reading here? So I have this Spawn, and then there's a medieval Spawn. I think once these two wrap up, whenever they do, I'm going to be off of Spawn for a little bit, just to be honest. I just don't feel that I get the full effect of it. Like, there's got to be something that really catches my eye further down the line to kind of jump back in. This seemed cool at the time because it was like kind of cyberpunky. That's why I picked it up in the first place. Medieval Spawn seemed cool, mostly honestly for the cover art for the very first one. I was like, I gotta just get, again, me judging books by its cover. I guess that's just what I do. So yeah, it's but it picked up here, I'd say maybe around like issue 5 or 6. That's kind of a long time to be reading something before. Then you're just kind of forcing yourself to just be doing it. And now here again, I can feel like this could be another slow build up. So we'll have to see how long it just keeps going. But if any of that interested you, now would be the time to jump in. 100%. Now would be the time. So that's rated Rat City, number 13. I give it a 4. Lee gave it a 4 as well. Then next up here we have Spider-Man Miles Morales number 13. And with that, I got just 4 more to go here. So I gave this a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9, which it feels about right. This is the start of Gang War. So Gang War is very specifically a Spider-Verse event. So you got Miles Morales that has some books in here. Basically anything that had Spider-Man. Of course, Amazing Spider-Man is going to have some stuff in here. I think Venom and Carnage at the time, they had some stuff in here as well. So this series picks up where we have just that. When we say Gang War, it's just a bunch of different gangs fighting each other. I think it's mostly Tombstone related, if I remember correctly. But this is the only thing that I read that was involved in Gang War at the time. This book came out December 13th, 2023. So quite a while ago, right? So all this stuff is out. I mention it always for these really long form ones. I think Miles Morales is now on like 32 or something at this point. And this is 13. Just get into whatever the current one is at this point is what I would say. But this issue here, we're all wrapped up from what happened with Blade from the last issue and Brielle. It's interesting, that's all before Blood Hunt too, so we haven't even gotten to Blood Hunt yet, which I think will be the next big event that happens here. There may be one other one, but I think it's Blood Hunt that basically happens next. And now we're obviously currently in One World Under Doom. But this is kind of a one-off adventure here. So you have Spider-Man training with Misty Knight, and Miles is basically her intern, and Colleen as well. So Colleen is like kind of like a ninja secret operative as well. So they're fighting this random D-tier villain. Frozen Pharaoh is who he is. He's part of like kind of the gang wars, or basically taking advantage of it and everything. And so as they're fighting him, they're in the streets. Very action-heavy, action-focused issue, and Spider-Man Miles is still having these spider senses issues. He also has this Venom blade, where basically he takes like this electrical like charge, but turns it into a sword, and has been using that. So he's training on that a little bit as well. They end up beating Frozen Pharaoh fairly easily. That's like probably 3/4 of the issue. Then towards the end, Hightail is brought up again. She was in the previous issues too. She's part of the Killer Capes, which is part of Agent Gao, who's like the main agent for New York City. Miles has been part of this Killer Cape crew back when Carnage was on the loose. Agent Gao doesn't particularly like Miles. Hightail's been going after Miles. Now with this gang wars thing going on, Hightail is actually in charge, and Gao has put her in charge. She's like, I got other things to do. Listen to whatever Hightail says, and Hightail wants to recruit Miles to help out with all these gang wars. So we're getting all wrapped up into that all over again. So there is a cliffhanger at the end here where it's Hobgoblin meets someone, but I don't know who that someone is. So it'll be revealed to me later, but just looking at the image, I'm like, I'm not too sure. It almost looks like the first villain from the first Miles Morales, but I can't, like, Miles' uncle in the movie, but I just don't know if that's exactly who it is for this one. I could just be making all that up, to be honest. So we'll see. But, yeah, let's flip over to the book itself. The art, very similar to a lot of Miles' stuff in the previous issues. See, I've described it before, but their paneling, the way that they do it here is like, panels like are layered on top of one another. Everything's like kind of forward facing, and I want to say like going towards the viewer, like it's trying to be like 3D, three-dimensional. So here's like a kind of a perfect example for this full spread right here, right? It's like exactly what most, see, this is like your standard, right? And you see like the gutters and the rails. That would be like your typical book, but most Miles books are not like that. Most of the art is like this, where it seems like everything is like kind of spilling over on top of one another and like overlapping just like this, and so it just kind of picks up just like that. I love the snow too. The snow is so awesome, and the way like this art must have taken forever to pull this off, but yeah, it's a pretty cool issue, I'd say. So again, I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.9. I don't know how Gang Wars all end, so I'd be interested to see how that happens and then how Miles is kind of folded into the story. But I enjoy Miles Morales overall. I think they're slower to start, but now we're kind of picking up a little bit more. We'll see how much they end up leaning in on, like, oh, the spider senses aren't working and all these therapy sessions and so on and so forth. I don't need a whole bunch of that. I don't mind it every now and then. Keep the story a little grounded. Hey, like, they got to deal with all this stuff constantly. It's very stressful. You can only imagine. Family's on the line. Your life's on the line. I get it. But at the same time, the superheroes, this is a job, you know? So I don't need it all the time, is the thing. And they've been leaning into it pretty heavily in recent issues. We'll see if it kind of continues, or we're like, all right, let's just kick some butt. You know what I mean? So that is Miles Morales Spider-Man number 13. Next we have Uncanny X-Men number 5. And then after this, this is one of 3 more that we have left here. So I gave this one a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. We are wrapping up our arc that we have here. Her name is Sarah. I remember last issue I didn't write her name and I didn't remember what it was. And whatever her villain name was, I looked throughout the book. I couldn't find it. So I'm sure I overlooked it. But I don't know what it is. But it's like this gaunt, like skinny witch lady. Let me just go right over to the main feed. I was trying to describe her before, but I think it's best if I just show you. She's like this scary, like, witch ghoul thing is like the best way to describe it. So it's Rogue. If you're looking at the video, you probably saw it, but she basically is in very bad shape, nearly dead at this point, and so much so that Sarah does get her into position and does actually kill her. And so Rogue does die in this one, and the rest of the squad are way far off, different part of the cabin, fighting off a whole bunch of zombies that are connected to Sarah, this zombie witch lady. And that's Gambit, Logan, Nightcrawler, Jubilee, and then a bunch of other kids that are just discovering their powers, fighting all those folks off. So then we get back to Rogue, and then while she's in like kind of this death in between plane, we're then brought back to the first issue where they met that one child who was a mutant, but he was dying and he wanted to meet some of the X-Men. And so that mutant actually touched Rogue. And, you know, Rogue's whole ability is she absorbs people's powers. And by touching that kid, we then find out what that kid's powers were. He had 2. So one, he kind of sees into the future a little bit. The best way he described it is like thinking about ice cream in the freezer and being able to taste it. Like that's what he can do with like visions. So that's 1, but then 2, he's also has healing powers as well. So it's like he knew that this was going to happen to Rogue, so that's why he had Rogue touch her, so that way she can now come back from the healing powers, and then maybe also have a bit of this ability to be able to see into the future as well. Pretty interesting. So, sure enough, that kid, though, he is dead, but at least she reconnected with him and everything. Rogue does come back, so now she comes back with, like, a new sense of vigor and, like, motivation, and she goes and attacks Sarah. She's able to defeat her, and with that, of course, all of her zombie minions then go away, so everyone's then safe back at the homestead, all the others. So she takes the body, she brings it back, actually, to the mansion. So the mansion now is taken over by effectively like a subsidiary of Orcus, which are a whole bunch of anti-mutant people doing experiments. They want to destroy mutants and the X-Gene and so on and so forth. But they actually gave the tip to Rogue and everyone else that, hey, this lady who's out here, like, yes, she was kind of being a bounty hunter for us and bringing in different mutants, but she's kind of off the leash and like we're not able to control her. So if you take her out, that actually does us a favor as well. So she brings her back, Rogue brings her back, like, you know, defeated basically. And Rogue threatens them and says, you do anything to her, you experiment on her, you try to control her, bring her back, make her more powerful, so on and so forth, we'll completely level this place to the ground. But also be warned, we're coming back for this mansion because they're at the mansion right now. And, you know, of course, the X-Men want it back. And that's the cliffhanger that we're left off on. So pretty cool book. Pretty interesting to see what all is going to happen next, because this is basically the end of the arc. Probably going to go back to more training, danger room type stuff, sharpening their skills, so on and so forth. So this book for the art is really good, I'd say, overall. Like I showed that one of, let's bring it up again, of Rogue, like completely passed out here, pretty bloody. Look at her arm, oh, you can't see it with the glare. Her arm's like totally mangled there. It's like, jeez, man. So you have a lot of like crazy scenes like that. I will say, Marvel, man, crazy with the ads though. So a lot of like crazy scenes. This is her bringing back the body and everything. Some more of the fight scenes as well. So yeah, it's a cool book. Of the three, so we had Exceptional. Exceptional I would put down probably as number 3, Uncanny as number 2, and then X-Men I'd actually say is number 1, especially from the previous issue that I read. I enjoyed the heck out of that one. But that is Uncanny X-Men. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 4.1. Second to last here, we have Batman 152. And this one is the ending to Absolute Power, at least the tie-in anyways, for the Batman series. So when we get to 153, we're in a completely different saga or a new era. And this one is cool for a couple of reasons. So let's start with the rating. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.7. I'd say the story itself is kind of fine, but what the reveal at the end here is pretty awesome. So we have Batman, Catwoman. They're trying to find the mother box is what it's called. So call it a MacGuffin or whatever, but it's Amanda Waller's. Waller's is the absolute power, if you will, trying to control all the mutants or metahumans. Sorry, it is DC metahumans, and that's basically anyone with abilities. And by doing so, Batman and Catwoman end up off planet in this weird world that has a lot of Waller's personal stuff, but this is where this mother box is. When they're there, Bizarro was defending it, so he's there, and you have a bunch of Suicide Squad members there as well. So they look like they're completely trapped. Out there is like this crazy dangerous planet that they're on right now, and then guarding, trying to fight their way back into the portal is, again, Bizarro and the Suicide Squad. So they start fighting them, of course, and they're trying to work their way back. Catwoman finds the mother box, and she's trying to open it up, and then Batman's trying to keep everyone distracted. While they do this, they basically set off this timer, and the timer goes off, and I guess it releases the force field that was keeping everything inside of like Amanda Waller's dwelling on this planet, and now these like scorpion like mite things are like coming in and attacking. So that leads to Suicide Squad and Bizarro to a certain extent like trying to rush back to get back to the portal to bring them back to Earth. So while that's happening, Catwoman is like screwing around with the mother box. She almost has it open. Batman's still trying to fight off Bizarro. He's basically able to get him to the point where he's neutralized. Catwoman opens up the mother box. When they open up the mother box and Batman touches it, he realizes it's not what they thought it was, which they really didn't know. But it's like even worse. It's a summoning like portal thing. And Batman's like thinking it through. He's like, oh my God, this can only be one thing. Darkseid. And so that's who it is that it summons, which is basically the Angel of Death in the DC universe. Like a big baddie for sure. And sure enough, Darkseid does show up, and they all then rush back to the portal, and they're barely able to make it out. Catwoman was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we made it and we escaped from Darkseid. And Batman's like, it was Darkseid, so the only reason we made it out is because he let us. Like, Batman said that. Like, what the hell? I was like, holy shit. So that was just kind of wild, and Batman just has like this moment of like, we literally almost just died off planet, like straight up. We were fighting Bizarro, Suicide Squad, and then Darkseid showed up at the end. Like, it almost killed all of us. So they're brought back to like a beach of like, I don't know, some sort of nice honeymoon or whatever that Batman and Catwoman were at back in like issue number 70 or something, which was well before I think I was even into comics at that point. You figure one comes out a month or so. So, yeah. Don't know what they were referencing there, but that was cool. So that's this issue, and it basically sets up like it's going to be the new arc here. I believe the next one literally is all in. So you can see at the top here, it's like just DC, and it's like, this is the absolute power, I guess, symbol. The next one for 153 is all in here. Actually, I realized I didn't flip the page, which is totally fine. Yeah, this is like the start of it right here, you can see, for 153. But yeah, let's go and show off. The artwork for this one is pretty cool. I'll say also in here at the end, you have the Birds of Prey, like kind of a special issue in here as well. The art in that is insane. I don't think I've ever seen art like that before. So this is Batman. Some advertisements. And then, yeah, here's where Darkseid is basically summoned. And Batman's like, run. It's like, we gotta get the hell up out of here, man. Oh my gosh. So, and then that's them going through the portal and Darkseid at the end here. Like, what? So then the Birds of Prey. Like, look at the Birds of Prey here. Like, what? Why is this so crazy realistic? I've never seen art like this. I was like, dang, man, this is nuts. Who did the art on this? I'm actually curious. The art. Mattia De Cullis? Dang, crazy. The story itself was pretty meh, but I was just amazed by the art. I was like, what the heck is this? Absolutely wild. And so I guess that led into a couple of different books that have happened since that I'm not reading or part of at all. But yeah, that's Batman 152. I gave it a 4. Lee gave it a 3.7. They were lower on it. I can understand why they were lower on it. Like, it seems like we're in an impossible situation. Classic Batman, Catwoman, they saved the day. But the reveal of Darkseid is what brought it up to a 4 for me. It was leaning towards 3.5. But then the Darkseid piece was like, and that's how it ties into everything. That's an all in. And that's like a missing link that I was missing from before. That's a pretty cool piece of nugget. I will say for comics, and I've mentioned it before, I will say it again. You do not need all these different pieces to get and fully understand the story. Sometimes you're rewarded with stuff like this. I'd say actually 50-50, you're not rewarded. Or like, yeah, you read this and you know, and it actually didn't matter too much for the grand scheme of the story. So just jump in and read something. That's my plea to you. Just read something. You'll know very quickly if this is the hobby that you're obsessed with, you love, you need more, and you have to have it. You'll know pretty quickly. I'd say within 5 to 6 books. Even if you pick 5 to 6 random books, you'll probably find, like, it's so hard to find 6 books in a row that would be atrocious, and I'd be like, wow, that you really picked like the 6 worst books humanly possible. Like, it's not really a possible thing. I say for Image, like over 50% of their stuff is really, really good. DC, majority of their stuff is good. Marvel, I'll be honest, it just depends on the day with Marvel. It just does. Dark Horse, like sometimes you'll get some misses. Oni Press tends to be pretty good. Boom tends to be pretty good. So it's, you'll find out quickly whether, and you don't need everything, and don't feel like you're missing out. Like, I think a lot of people will FOMO in. It's an interesting thing. I feel like a rite of passage for comic books is you enter into comics, you have no idea what you're doing, so you feel incredibly lost. You start reading some stuff, then you get the bug. Then once you get the bug, you're just like, I got to read everything. And then you're reading a whole bunch of stuff, but you don't even know what the heck you're reading, what is it about, what are you doing? And then you slowly start to realize, like, oh, I didn't need to read that. Oh, I probably only need to read this. And then you get a lot more selective and start paring things down. Then you start to actually get accustomed to, like, particular, whether it be authors and writers and artists, and then you just start to follow them, and then you'll then go into like different publications, and then you'll start to see how those are done versus how ones that are specifically just the big 3, and you'll like branch out from there. It's like crazy of the way and the journey that this hobby kind of takes you in on. And then maybe you get like me and you start a podcast on it. Who knows? So anyways, that's our quick little tangent for the evening. So let's go now to our final book here, which is Batman One Bad Day. This is the Penguin. So we've already done the Riddler, and we've done something else. I can't remember. Riddler and I'm actually kind of genuinely curious. What was the other one that we did? Actually, it's actually probably going to be easier if I do it this way. And we type 1. So we did the Riddler and Two-Face. That was the other one. I remember. Yes, Two-Face. So the Penguin's next, and then after this, I believe, is Mr. Freeze. And so for the Penguin, I gave it a 4.5. You can see Lee gave it a 3.9. I was actually kind of surprised with that. I was expecting like at least a 4.1, 4.2, something along those lines. But this story and this whole series is like each villain like does something absolutely insane in like a singular day. This one was nuts. The way that it all started out. We got Oswald. sitting on a bench, looking out over, seeing the entire city of Gotham. And he just looks like he's down on his luck, having the worst day of his life. And so he's on the bench, and someone random comes up to him. He's like, "You the guy?" He's like, "Huh?" He's like, "You heard me. You the freaking guy or not?" And he's like, Yeah. He's like, "All right, well, show me the money." Pulls out like $20. The guy hands him a gun. He looks at the gun. He's like, "This is it for $20." This is Oswald. This is the Penguin saying this. He's like, "This is it." It's like, "Yeah, this is it for $20." He's like, "No bullets?" It's like, "All right, well, I'll give you one bullet. But, honestly, if you're going to head into Gotham, you're better off just shooting yourself with it." That's literally what the guy says. That's how the comic starts. And so we find out Penguin, down on his luck. We had this guy, the Umbrella Man, who was his right-hand man, and I think literally just held the umbrella for Penguin at the time. Goes and completely takes over the city. And Oswald's kicked out. This Umbrella Man is now the king of crime in Gotham. And the difference is, though, Umbrella Man is running the city totally and completely differently from how Penguin did. So Penguin allowed a little crime, but he didn't allow full-out anarchy, which is what is happening in Gotham now. So much so, earlier in the book, we see Batman, he's like in his like crazy bat flying spaceship thing, and there's just radio constant from the police officers of like gunshots here, home invasion here. Like, it is just constant. There's like 19 things all happening at once, and he has to just choose one. And he's like, "See, Batman, when I was running it, you'd have a couple things, but you could get to literally all of them, and it seemed like you were making a difference. Umbrella Man is just letting everything just go completely run wild, all to just get a piece of the cuts on all this stuff. And, Batman can't do any justice here." So Penguin starts off with the one gun, and he goes back to one of the first people that betrayed him. So he goes up to him with the gun, and he's like, "Yo, where's my money? You gave me up for $25,000. That's all it took, and you completely gave me up." He's like, "Sorry, like, you weren't giving us any respect." And like, the guy's completely strung out and wasted and spent all his money on drugs and shit. And basically, he's like, "All right, well, just give me a little bit of the money left, and then I'll move past all of this." And so he goes to grab the money, but there's a gun in there, and when he grabs it, Penguin just shoots him in the head with the one bullet. Now that guy, he had a gun, 3 bullets, and $10. $10. So now he's got three. So now he's got a gun with 3 bullets and $10. All he had before was a gun with 1 bullet. Now he's got a gun with 3 bullets and $10. So he goes outside. There's like a whore waiting outside, and he goes and like tips her $5, like, "Follow me, and we're gonna go take over a crime." And she just takes the money and then runs. So now he's got a gun, 3 bullets, and $5. So he reaches and goes back into his past and meets up with an enforcer. And it was like a little person, but has like these enormous fists, like a metahuman in that way. And so she was teased a lot as a kid, obviously, for her size and everything. And Penguin's like pleading with her, "Come back with me. I got to take back the city." He's like, "You kidding me? You gave me no respect on the way up. Once you got there, you basically tossed me to the side. Why would I come back to you?" And he just sweet talks her and basically like, "Hey, when you're with me, no one ever made fun of you. Don't you want to feel that way again?" And she's like, "You know what? F it. I got nothing else I'm doing. I'm with you." So now he's got the muscle. So then Penguin then goes and he tries to meet up with his money guy, the bookie. And so he goes there, meets the bookie. Bookie is now with the Umbrella Man. It's like, "I want nothing to do with you." And so the muscle beats up everyone there. And then Penguin's like, "Dang, I wanted one other like muscle person to back us up. You kind of beat everyone up." And then there's a random unsuspecting kid. His name's Elliot. He shows up and he's like trying to work with his uncle there, try to get a job. And he basically, Penguin recruits him, spends $5 on him. So the $5 is gone. Now he's just got the 3 bullets. He's got the muscle, and he's got this no-name kid. So he's like, "Now we need the money." So they go to this like sketchy bank, and basically they head in, and he's like, "Elliot, you're going to take the gun with the 3 bullets. And when I say your name, you're just going to shoot." And he basically treats him as some sort of wild card. And this kid's nervous. He doesn't know what to do. He's like so confused. And he's like, "Don't kill me. Don't kill." He's like just this nervous, nerdy kid. They head in, find out all the money. He wants $250,000. Find out all the money belongs to Umbrella Man. Of course, these guys don't give him any of the money. And then Penguin's like, Elliot. And then he finally realizes the kid, he's like, and he like loses his mind and he just shoots like crazy. But he's a kid. He misses every single shot. But it did the trick. It scared the bankers. And they're like, "Holy crap. Okay, here's the money." They pay him in crypto. And they're like, "Get the hell out of here." So that happens. They leave. And they're like, "Great. Now we have the money. Now we got to get guns." So then they go and they try to find like a mercenary. I think Felicia is her name, or Fiona, something like that. And so the banker, then he goes to the Umbrella Man. Is like, hey, this just happened. Like, you just gave him $250,000. It's like, yeah, like they were gonna kill us, but at least we're tipping you off. He's like, thanks. Umbrella Man, of course, kills him right then and there. And he's like, I bet they're going to get guns. I bet they're going to Fiona. All right, my top guy, you go out there and you go and you ice Fiona. So Penguin and his crew, they get there first. Talk to Fiona. It's like, here's $250,000. And Fiona's like, I worked with you before. You're an asshole. We're with the Umbrella Man. We're not doing anything with you. We're not open for business. And he's like, all right, fine. Here's the money. I'll just leave it here. Here's the cell phone. In case anything happens, just take it. So Penguin, the girl, and Elliot, the kid, they leave. And when they leave, they're like down on the luck. They're like, damn, we thought that this was really going to work. So sure enough, Umbrella Man and his crew, they all show up and they kill half of Fiona's crew. They were like in the inside of the safe, like trying to prepare guns that they were about to sell. The other half were out front and they were all killed. And so Fiona, of course, comes out with the remaining crew, and of course she picks up the phone. It's like, Penguin, I'm with you. They just killed half my crew. She doesn't realize like why, just knows that that's happened. Of course, they have the money. It's like, we're going to go in for revenge. So Penguin's like, all right, great, my lucky day. So now you got Fiona, a couple of her hitmen, you got the Muscle, and then you have Elliot. And now they go to the Iceberg Lounge or the Ice Penguin, whatever it is, to go and take on Umbrella Man. As they're heading there, that's when they run into Batman. Batman's like, I have to stop you, obviously. And then Penguin lays it out just like I explained. It's like, the city's gone crazy. You can't do anything to help. If I take it back over, there's going to be some crime for sure, but not nearly as much as you have right now. It'll be within an acceptable range, and I'm going to run the city the way it should be run. And Batman's like, you got one night. So sure enough, they all show up. Got the Muscle, got the wild card, and you got the guns. And they show up and they duke it out against Umbrella Man. And at first, he just beats the crap out of Penguin. But Penguin then, he gets back up, literally bites a huge chunk out of Umbrella Man's neck and kills him, and then regains everything back all in one night. All in one night this takes place. Insane. I was like, this book is wild. So the only thing I could see people not liking about, especially if you just read the Penguin series, which was like an awesome Black Label series, oh, it was so incredibly good. This Penguin is a way more like jokey than you would get from like something else. Like the other one's like, maybe he looks like a pathetic guy and stuff, but this one is like, he's like kind of joking around and not taking it as seriously as you'd imagine that he would, which can sometimes be part of the character if that's the way that he wants to make you feel. It's like, it's like, ha, gotcha. But that doesn't really happen here. And that's kind of counterintuitive to what Penguin's typical demeanor is. So I could see that. But for this, the fact that he started off outside the city, nobody on his side, everyone hates him, one random ass gun that he buys off the street and a bullet, all the way to regaining back and being the crime lord all over again for Gotham in a single night. Incredible. So well done. And so, yeah, that is Batman, One Bad Day, the Penguin. I'd say for this, you had the whole, it's almost like a box set compendium that you can get. It's kind of expensive. It's anywhere from like $80 to $100, but they have all these books lined up here. And once I kind of flipped over here, you can see for the, let's see, I think it's 8 that they have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so 8 of them is what you would get. And these books are pretty expensive too. I think this is also, yeah, this is $8 crew as well. So they're pretty long and pretty expensive for what they are. But they're cool. So yeah, price tags here. I don't know if you can see that. But the art itself, art is pretty good. It's more about the story, I'd say, for these. And they are, I think they're Black Label. I think they are. I'm not entirely sure. It feels like it's Black Label if it's not. And at least it's written like it's Black Label. And then again, like barely any ads in these as well. So, it's a pretty cool, fun story. I'm interested to see what the other ones are about. But they're all just like one crazy, insane day that Batman has to deal with all of his like rogue gallery enemies, which is cool. So that is Batman, One Bad Day, the Penguin. And that, I think, will wrap it up for a show. Let's see, how do we do on time here, folks? How do we do? Hour 10. Man, that's crazy. I think that's exactly what the last one was as well. It seems like when I have the art it adds in like this extra 10 minutes of like fumbling through all this stuff, clicking all the buttons and doing all the things. So let's line them back up. Make sure you got the full rundown here. So again, 10 books in order from start to finish. We had Resurrection Man, Quantum Karma, book number 2. The Moon is Following Us, number 9. Exceptional X-Men, number 3. Outsiders, number 7. Batman, the Brave and the Bold, number 7. Rat City, 13. Miles Morales, Spider-Man, 13. Uncanny X-Men, number 5. Batman 152. And Batman One Bad Day, the Penguin. So those are the 10. Again, my pick of the week was the very first one. I usually try to keep them in the top 4, but very rarely do I do it number 1. So at least I guess you guys to stay for at least a little bit. But Resurrection Man, Quantum Karma, and that was the same for the Interior Art. Excellent book. So next one that we'll have coming out, of course, is going to be our standard Saturday morning comic review issue going up on Saturday, 10 a.m. as always, and that'll be on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast as always. If you enjoy the show, like, subscribe, do the things, hit the bell, leave a comment, engage with it. That really helps out with SEO and all that stuff too. So that is much appreciated if you do that. If you'd like to send an email, I'm at saturdaymorningcbreview@gmail.com. Instagram is Saturday Morning Comic Review. TikTok is Helpful Bailiff. I'm on BlueSky, but that's mostly on the wrestling front of things, but that's also at the Helpful Bailiff if you're interested there. League of Comic Geeks, my account, also Helpful Bailiff. How I got that name is all from Marvel Snap. I just clicked randomize, and it said Helpful Bailiff, and I was like, that is hilarious. I'm just going to roll with that, and then have basically tried to make a brand out of that between that and Saturday Morning Comic Review. So in one way, shape, or form, you can find me on one or the other. And it seems like, for the most part, a lot of that stuff just ends up being available, which is awesome. So I think that is going to go ahead and wrap it up. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. And I will see you in the next one.
This has been a DMW production. Thanks for stopping by.